Hi everyone, my name is Henry with FineLimeGames, and today I am doing a showcase of Kingdom Animalia, the trading card game. This is a strategy card game that I have developed over the past few years, focusing around animals from around the world. Today I just wanted to go through a showcase of everything in the game, a quick intro of the game itself, specifics of cards, a bit of how to play, and then where you can look to play or purchase this game, as well as what to look forward to going forward. Like I said, Kingdom Animalia is a strategy card game focused around economic management, combat, and strategic objective play. Each game is played over different objectives in sets. First to three or best of five is the format of the games themselves. And so each different set within a game features a different objective. There are just a few examples here that I'll go over. The bulk of the game centers around animals, and right now there are 4 different playable factions in the game, with 2 more to be added shortly. Right now we have mammals, reptiles and amphibians, fish, and birds. And when you play a game of Kingdom Animalia, you will select one faction to play. So your whole deck would have fish cards, or your whole deck would have bird cards. There are 2 different types of cards you would have in your deck. The first, obviously, being the animals themselves. Each animal has a bit of information on it. They have stats, food cost, and abilities, which I'll go through in a little bit here. And these will make up the bulk of your deck, and they form the bulk of the gameplay. The other kind of card you'll have in your deck is going to be called an adaptation. So these are, in other games, they'd maybe be spells or effect cards. And they have various effects as you play them. Some happen instantly, some stay on the field and happen throughout the game. And these will be different things, helping to draw or buffing animals, etc. And then finally, the last type of card in the game are the biomes, or objective cards. One of these will be selected each set, either by the loser of the previous set or at the start of the game by the person who chooses to go second. And these will have different objectives for the win conditions of the set itself. So, for example, if we go over to the coastal desert here, the first player to score a kill on an opposing animal wins. That's a very fast objective. A much slower objective would be the player with the most unique animals in play after 12 rounds wins. Each set is broken up into rounds, and each set takes between 5 and 15 minutes to play. So your average game of Kingdom Animalia is anywhere between a half hour to an hour, generally. The game is for 2 players, and it is a competitive game. There's a lot of strategy involved, a lot of strategic decisions in deck building and in gameplay. And focusing on the objective itself, as well as having a good economy, is imperative. I'll go into economies in a little bit here. Going back to the animals, just going over what's on the card itself. Obviously, this is a lion. You can see its name up in the upper left-hand corner. It is a carnivorous mammal, and it is part of a tribe, for lack of a better term. It's a cat, and there are a lot of cards that interact with tribes or families themselves. This is a cat. The Gila monster is not part of any group. Black-tip shark is a shark, etc. So effects like adaptations or animal abilities will oftentimes interact with these tribes. The stats on this animal, from left to right, starting with health in the green there, attack, defense, speed, evasion chance, and forage ability. Right below that is the ability of the animal itself. There are no keywords in this game in terms of abilities, so every single animal says what it does. In this case, the lion gets stronger if you have more lions. Below that, you have where the animal is from / like its home turf. And so lions live on the grassland, and they are terrestrial. There are 3 different things an animal can be. They can be terrestrial, arboreal, or aquatic, and they can be a combination of those things. And then where it says grassland is just the environment that they live in, be it a grassland or a desert or saltwater or a forest. And then below that, you just have collector information. So on that left bottom corner, you have the number of the card and how many cards are in the set that it's from. This line is from the Mammals versus Reptiles and Amphibians 2-player starter set. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, you have the rarity. So this would be a rare card. This would be a common card with the circle there. And this would be an uncommon card with the hexagon. Bumping over to adaptations here, you have similar information. You have the name, the information about what it affects. You have the food cost in the corner, which I think I forgot to mention with the animals. The upper right-hand corner there, that's how much food it costs to play them. Food is the lifeblood of this game, just like it is in nature. So having good economic management to be able to play cards is very important. Every single card costs food. On the adaptation here, we have what the adaptation does kind of in the middle there, what kind of adaptation it is, be it instant, happening immediately when you play the card, persistent, um, having an effect that persists on the field as long as the card is face up, and equip, which would be equipped to an animal and only affect the animal it's equipped to. And then again, collector information on the bottom there. So, as I said, foraging for food is very, very important in this game. And having enough food to play cards is what wins and loses you the game. So if I just add all of these cards back to my hand here and simulate a bit of a game, I'm playing just against a mirror here, just to do examples of the game itself. Let's say this was the current objective, Coastal Desert, and it was my turn to play. You always start your turn with drawing, and some parts of the game happen simultaneously with your opponent, and some are determined by player order. So let's say I was first player. At the beginning of the game, I had decided to be first player with my opponent. I would conduct my phases before my management phase before my opponent. So within each set, there are rounds. Sometimes it's delineated like this objective, where there will be 12 rounds. The player with the most unique animals and play after 12 rounds wins. Or it'll be open-ended, like the Coastal Desert, which doesn't have a cap or a minimum number of rounds. So within the round itself, you have three phases. You have management, combat, and status. At the start of the management phase, players draw one card, and then starting with the first player, players decide if they want to forage for food. So let's say I had this blue jay and this Gila monster in my back row. There are also two rows to the game, which I'll go to in a second. So let's say I had them in my back row, and I had to decide, do I want to forage with them? And this happens right after you draw. Before anything else, you decide if you want to forage. This blue jay forages for 3 food, and this Gila monster forages for 2 food. You can see the little orange icon kind of in the middle of the card. And so if I decide I want to forage, I would turn them sideways, or tap them if you've played Magic the Gathering or similar games. This is called exhausting. I've exhausted these cards. When they're exhausted, they cannot evade, they cannot move, they cannot activate. They're done for the turn. They're exhausted for the turn. And so if I chose to forage with both of these animals, I would gain 3 plus 2 food. I would gain 5 food. Let's say I had enough food, maybe 15 food, to play this black tip shark. During my management phase, if I'm first player, I get to do this first. I would pay my 15 food and put my black tip shark, in this case, in the front row. The importance of rows is that animals can only forage from the back row unless otherwise specified, and animals can only attack from the front row unless otherwise specified. So the animals in the front can only attack other animals in the front unless there are no animals there, in which case they can attack the back row. So it becomes a game of putting your smaller animals or your animals you want to forage with in the back, and then protecting them with things in the front row. Generally, combat happens between animals in the front row, and foraging happens in the back row. Obviously, there are exceptions to this. Things can get a bit different with animal abilities and adaptations, but generally, it's front to front unless there is nothing there, in which case you can attack anything in the back. So right now my black tip shark would be protecting my foragers in the back. Again, like I said earlier, normally I'd be playing all fish or all something else, because all the animals are supposed to be from one faction. But in this case, this is just a mix to show examples of cards. During combat is determined by the speed of each animal. So this black tip shark has a speed of 6 there, you can see with the yellow icon. The faster animals go first, so higher number goes first. Again, this is a mirror, so we're the same. But let's say I was first player, and I had the speed advantage with my black tip shark. I could choose if I wanted to attack. Now, the decision with attacking comes down to the pro of dealing damage to perhaps kill your opponent's animals to have an advantage in the game. But the downside to attacking is, just like foraging, you exhaust. And when you're exhausted, you cannot evade. Evasion happens when an attack is declared. So let's say my opponent attacks my black tip shark and it's not exhausted. The 18 plus right there in the stat line of this animal is the evasion chance. And so evasion is when my opponent attacks me. As the attack is declared, you roll a 20-sided die, and if the number on the die exceeds your evasion value, you pass and you dodge the attack. So for this black tip shark, I would need to roll an 18 or higher to dodge. I rolled a 16, so my black tip shark would take damage from the attack. The amount of damage it would take is the opponent's attack value minus my defense value, which in this case is 1, and then that damage is dealt to my health. And so let's say I was attacked by my opponent's black tip shark, I would take 7 damage, and we just delineate that by putting 7 damage counters on the animal. If I were to attack, like I said, you exhaust. And now this animal is done for the turn. It can't evade, it can't move, it can't use abilities, it is all finished. After combat, we have the status phase, and in the status phase, any status conditions are resolved, as well as adaptations or abilities that reference the status phase. And after the status phase, the turn ends, and everything is unexhausted for the start of the next round. Like I said, it is a game of best of 5 to win the game, so first person to win 3 objectives wins the game. This, like I said, generally takes around 30 to 60 minutes, sometimes longer if you're learning the game, sometimes faster if you're just having bad luck or it's a bit of a steamroll. There are more mechanics that I won't go into in this video. This is just a very simple how to play. I really encourage anyone who wants to play this game to read the full rules, which are available on the store page for the game on the Game Crafter, as well as on the Discord server. And that is a perfect segue into where to play this game / where to buy it if you're interested. This is primarily a physical card game that you can purchase on the Game Crafter. I have links in the description to the available product right now. We have 2 products available. There are 2 2-player starter sets. One is mammals versus reptiles and amphibians, and the other is fish versus birds. These are starter sets intended to get 2 people playing the game right away. They feature small decks that allow 2 people to get a taste of the game. And as a collectible card game or a trading card game, collection and deck building is a very major part of it. So there will be booster packs soon to be released where I encourage people to build their own decks, form their own strategies with the new cards. The other way to play this game is online through Untap. Untap is a fantastic website, primarily used to play Magic the Gathering, but it has the ability to play custom card games as well. And I have gotten all the currently released Kingdom Animalia cards onto Untap so people can play and test things out. There are a couple different things that you obviously can't do in this game that you can do in real life. For example, tracking food instead of the nifty little tokens that I have for the physical game. You would move these values around down here. Tracking damage would be with the little counters right here. But Untap is just basically a free tabletop that you can move things around on. A lot of the game is done, physically. There's not a lot of automation on here, but that's okay. You can play the game, and it's a great way to play the game virtually. Looking forward, I hope that this video has interested you and that you're interested in learning more about this game. I highly encourage you to join the Discord server. That's where we're going to start getting a community built up to organize games, maybe some tournaments. It'll have the most updated rules. It'll have the ability to ask questions, to work through beta testing for the game itself. The game is still in a beta, and I'm hoping to get a lot of people from around the world who are interested in helping us test things, test new content, and to make this game the best it can be. Again, I am Henry with FineLimeGames. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's gotten you interested in learning more. I'll have follow-up videos coming out soon about cards in the starter set and more in-depth mechanics, animal breakdowns, etc. So stick around for that.